I'm almost there, but I mean, I like us to be let out a little bit.
Too tight. Yeah. Is that too tight?
Oh, yeah.
That's what makes me sexy. So when, you know, when I want to be sexy, I go see my man and he hook it up.
Well, he's got tremendous style and panache, and if he can get me in a suit, he can get anybody in a suit.
Frankly, unless you're wearing Ozwald Boateng, you're not dressed properly.
What are you looking for here? Anything in particular, or just what?
No, it's intuitive. I'm trying to understand it. The touching is also understanding.
I didn't pick Oswald. It was just a series of events that happened that led me to walk into Oswald's bespoke couture headquarters one day. I was working at Sky. Someone told me about it. They told me about this camera. He was doing something with Canon, so I should meet him. Interesting, he's doing a fashion show. Maybe I should film it. And then I met him, and I sat down with him, and I was like, wow, this guy's really interesting. I'd never met anybody like him before, and he's had difficulties in his life, and I was thinking, well, how does he deal with those difficulties? Understanding that I also had difficulties, and I was like, well, you know, it's like, so how does he do it? So that was kind of the momentum, but it was not supposed to be longer than 6 weeks or something.
Yeah, it's 3 months or something like that.
Something like that, yeah, and then it just developed. Because then it's like, well, what's the journey?
You're born in London, so you have an English understanding of what that is. You know you're African, you know where your roots are. On the other hand, you're not being accepted because you're black. But there was a massive cultural tension, massive. Because you were in a minority, you always said that you were alone. The riots demonstrated that you weren't alone. You either took a very radical position, said, I'm black and it's a real problem in life. Or I'm black, it's difficult, but I'm going to make it work. So you had to park the colour as an issue and just get on with it. When you started filming, you know, the world was a very different place for me then. And so I was very quite light-footed about the whole process. But the thing is, the timing of him filming was very unique for me at that point, because in that moment I was going through so much things that happened, you know, going through divorce and all the rest of it. So I think in a way, maybe him filming was a way of me dealing with the situation, and then the relationship evolved because he was only supposed to film for a few weeks, and then that became 6 months, that became a year, and then I think we got to about 4 or 5 years in, and I said, look, you got to stop. And that's when I took him to LA and I introduced him to a couple of big producer friends of mine, Jerry Bruckheimer and Joel Silver, thinking they'll just say, hey, you know, stop. And the complete opposite happened. They encouraged him to film more, and I was pushed deeper into this film. As a designers, we're not about exposing ourselves. It's the mystique and that we create around our brands that are part of it. Whereas this isn't that. So it was difficult. But then, you know, Varon explained it to me, and I got there myself, is the story is a man's story, and every man has that same problem. Regardless of you're a president of a country or, like I said, working in a supermarket, putting fruit in a bag. You have problems in relationships. Are you in love or not in love? Have you met someone, not met someone? Do you want to be more successful, make more money? You know, do you work too hard? Do you not spend enough time at home? All of those issues, every single man is dealing with those issues on a daily basis.
Introducing the best-dressed street in the world. Savile Row was founded here a few years after the Battle of Waterloo.
His drive to succeed finally had him located in Savile Row by the age of just 28, making him the youngest and the first black tailor with that prestigious address.
If you drop a piece because of something, and I don't even know, because I'm now designing Spring/Summer 2011, I'm moving at light speed, I've forgotten the piece. Then I come back and I look at it like this, and what am I doing? What am I exactly doing? So something's missing. Right? I'm different. You evolve. Every creative evolves. So you start off with kind of the sort of the creative cheek of designing, knowing that you've got a point of view that's different. As you evolve and you become more mature in design, you're more solid in your grounding. It's less cheeky. It's more like, this is my art, this is what I do. So it's a very different, you know, you just, that's what it becomes. And it's with every creative in any field. And also I think is and, you know, someone said to me, it was about the mystique, you know, and, you know, are you worried about it? I said, well, actually, I mean, my work speaks for itself. It should do at this point.
Accentuates this waistline more, creating an illusion of a slimmer fit.
I don't know what he's doing because he just papers, papers everywhere, brown papers everywhere in the house.
I was training myself.
He's training herself to cut jacket and all this.
The meaning of Ozwald is divinely powerful. This is the sort of name that I'll give to the boy because I'm convinced he's going to be great.
When I started design at 16, he was the one I looked at.
Armani is why I do what I do. He inspired everything in me to create.
The most important thing for any creative is to start. Everything's about starting. So whoever stimulates you to do that first move towards a dream is always important in your life. Like, hugely. In fact, the event that was covered in Ghana is now stimulated a whole raft of things that now I'm involved in across the continent. To an infrastructure bond, to high-speed rail, to formation of a foundation to raise money for feasibility studies across the continent. You know, no, it's a lot now that off the back of that event that I took that didn't make any sense, that is now a reality. And more importantly is back in 2007 when I did that event, when you talked about Africa or the opportunity in Africa, it was always viewed as a case of aid and governance and a whole raft of the usual issues. And now when you talk about Africa now, people talk about it as a proper trade opportunity. And that's been the biggest issue of holding Africa back, because in a world where there's no real assets and everything's kind of being, some would say, being created value, and now we're in a huge deficit in a lot of Europe over that point. Africa is the only place where it has real assets. Well, the key advice is, you know, I say in the film, you know, is belief. I say it over and over again like a mantra, because at the end of the day, that's all you have. You know, if you don't believe it, then why should anyone else?
T-E-N-G. It's all about the cup. It's all about the cup. It's all about the cup. And you do all the cup? Yeah. Well, I can still cut. For you, I cut. Would you? Yeah, but I won't graffiti on the inside.
It's been agreed only this morning that actually we'll just focus that pleating just on the bib area.
Yeah, we'll focus on the bib
center
area,
front.
do the same shirt and the same bow tie. So
Done.
Exactly.
That's rocking.
Exactly.
It's fantastic.
What makes Ozwald special?
I mean, Ozwald's unique.
He's got this incredible classic British tailoring sensibility thing happening.
Very charming, very witty, very temperamental.
And then at the same time, he's got this extraordinary African use of color. It's fantastic.
Fantastic. Beautiful. Look at me now.
No. With him? Nah. I'm not going to work with him. I'm going to work? Nah. I'm joking.
I mean, we get on fine.
Yeah.
Right, Ozwald?
Yeah, sure.
So,
yeah.
You know, we get on really well, and we're friends, but obviously, the good thing is I can stop being impartial and I can just be his friend now.
Yeah.
So that's great, yeah.
So for me, I'm opening more stores around the world. So I'm very focused on that. I've set up this foundation, Main Africa Foundation, and we're going to raise $400 million for feasibility studies across Africa, and that's you know, solar urban development, railway development, road, and all based on new tech on an environmental basis. And after having ran shit for 12 years, I think it's time for me to be on the other side of the camera, directing stuff. So I've got some ideas, some films that I like to make, and so that's my plan.